And I just kind of got to a point, I'll just give up and accept my fate, live out the rest of my days working a second shift electrical job. When you can't think of anything else, it's easy to say, well, I'm just glad that I woke up this morning. I could be dead, but I'm still alive. And I look to Julie and I can see she is struggling to come up with something to be grateful for. Instead of being grateful, what are you excited for today? The goal is not to make the tool work, but to learn how to make the tool work with me.
They said it was too late, that the best years were behind him. But he wasn't done. He was just getting dangerous. This podcast isn't for the overnight success stories. It's for the ones who are still in the middle of the damn fight. The late bloomers, the blue-collar visionaries, the people who refuse to settle. This isn't a comeback. It's a fucking uprising.
Hey, welcome back to Electrician Entrepreneur Podcast, documenting my journey from 20 years in the trades to successful entrepreneur. And if you've been following along, last week we talked a little bit about being an escape artist, and that was probably as raw and unedited podcast that I've done. I actually had the notes that are sitting in front of me for this episode, and at the last second, as I began to read and began to go through that process, just didn't feel it, so decided against it and decided to just go completely off the cuff. So if you made it through that episode and you're interested in sticking around, great. I'm glad. Today I want to kind of get into those things that I really wanted to get into last week. Now, one of the first things I want to, typically at this part of the show, what I like to do is recap the previous week in our status, in what we've accomplished. Last week I mentioned a little bit about, or I should say the last episode, I mentioned a little bit about working on school content. I've created a school page, and it is open now. It's open and it's free for the first 20 members. What I'll refer to as the founders group. And I want to just kind of touch on this a little bit. There's nothing to offer at this moment. I've been working consistently on creating the first lesson plan. I have a total of 4 lessons plans in mind. The first one's going to take a little bit to work through, and it's if you don't have time to spend learning new things, at the pace that they're all coming out, please consider joining my school group, as I'll cover these things as I learn them, and save you the trouble of having to do all kinds of trial and error in learning them. But the first episode, of course, or the first lesson plan, rather, of course, being on AI and my virtual team of assistants, and how you can have that too. So something to consider. But in addition to working on that, and that's been my consistent path, has been working on that. And in addition to that, I've decided that I'm going to try to record ahead of time, several days ahead of time. So I'm actually only 2 days from the last release, so there's not a whole lot to recap. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it appears that 99% of the population that's recording with Riverside, which is my chosen platform for recording and editing, current chosen platform for recording and editing, but at any rate, it's cloud-based, and 99% of the users appear to do it all at the same time that I chose to do it, which is the most convenient time for people to do it. So the issue is going to be on a cloud-based service such as that is if everybody's doing it at the same time, you're all competing for, for computer processing power. And, and it's really, really, really hard to edit. Um, and not everything is, the recording doesn't necessarily go very smoothly either. So we pick a day in which we know that most people are busy at work and too busy to be recording podcasts. And that's that's where we're at. We're going to try to get these recorded earlier, and then I will schedule the releases for for the same day that you've been expecting them. This hopefully will also keep me from being a day or two late, as has been the case for the last few episodes. So, because I really want to stick to a Monday morning release schedule. That seems to work the best. I think that works best for everybody because this is when you're returning back to work after a weekend off. You maybe you listen on during a commute. Maybe this is one of the things that you like to do while you're working is listen or watch a podcast while you work. So, as kind of background noise or whatever. But you know, um, I like to have it available first thing, and I stole that from Steve Bartlett, the podcast host for Diary of a CEO. He's also the CEO of Flight Story, and um, but at any rate, yeah, I kind of took the idea from him. This is when people, are most likely looking for something to kind of fill the air during their commute or um, while they're at work. So at any rate, so this week I wanted to talk a little bit about gratitude, something that we've discussed plenty of times before. This is something that I'm very, very, um, I'm very anchored to. I'm very confident with. Um, Gratitude has definitely changed my life. It's allowed me to do a lot of introspective work with myself. Um, and, I don't know if it was something that I've talked about before, but one thing that I think is truly important to becoming a successful businessman, or business person is, having emotional control, uh, you know, having full control over your emotions and being able to react intelligently at any situation is one of the most important things because if you are consistently reacting by emotion to things, then this makes things hard for, say, negotiating deals or making the proper decisions for your next business move. um, all of the most successful entrepreneurs and business people, in the past have this one thing in common, which is the control over emotion during a decision making point, whether it's in a conversation, negotiation, or when something an issue arises or what have you. So, in going with that, gratitude it became something very important for me, as it does allow me to be a little bit introspective on how I feel about things. And understanding how I feel about things helps me to better identify these feelings as they arise, and therefore be intelligent about how I feel, the way why I feel that way, and how to properly react as opposed to just reacting to on that feeling. um and the reason why gratitude works that way is because gratitude is really, I mean, as it as it sounds, you're basically being grateful for something that has happened. or something that you have in your life, something that's based in the present or in the past. And by doing that, of course, you have to look back at those things and find those things, and we're not really wired to do that, right? It's, within our society and within Western society, and at any rate, we generally, the population is very reactive, and we're very rooted in all the negative things that have happened, whether it's, in the world or in our neighborhood or with ourselves specifically. After hundreds of years of psychology looking at, your typical Freudian psychology, looking at your parents as the reason why you feel the way you feel, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not debunking that, but that does root everyone kind of in this negativity, as to say, well, I'm feeling right now inadequate because my parents did such and such, or because this thing happened. And this is really the basis for victimology. And what I mean by victimology is that everyone tends to, in Western society, everyone has adopted this idea of being a victim. And we know, the truth of the matter is that you are only a victim to that which is in your own mind. And that's not to say that bad things have not happened to you. Certainly someone who has, been a victim to violence, in whatever form that may be, that person, is truly a victim. But how they were, if they decide to remain a victim, is another story entirely. In that moment, yes, you're a victim. In the moment of that violence, in the moment of that, even emotional violence, in that moment in which somebody has made you feel, whether physically or emotionally, uh, less than less than you, you're a victim at that moment. But now this is very important, but that's not, and it's important that you take time to heal. Of course you should take time to heal. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that you, at some point, you have to begin to ask yourself, are you healing because of this image that you have in your head, or are you still healing? And the reason I say that is that at some point your life must continue, must carry on. Everyone must. Prior to the last 50 years and the billions of freaking dollars made on self-help books, and all this pseudo psychology that's been released over the last 100 years, prior to all of that, when somebody was victimized, they moved on with their life shortly thereafter. If they didn't, if they wallowed in that, they didn't have a very long life to remaining. And the difference today is that we have $1 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars of medications that we can all buy into that make us feel better. Or we've got all the off the market medications we can get into that make us feel better. And all that does is prolong, of course, the victimology. You continue to feel like a victim, and that you continue to use that as the reason why you need to medicate. And the truth of the matter is that you can begin to heal by understand the moment, understand the way it made you feel, and embrace the whole thing as a part of you, as a part of your history, and learn from it, and learn how to move on with your life. That is the most important part of the grieving process, after all, is learning how to move on. We all must, whether it's from loss or from being a victim to something or whatever. At some point, To continue your life, you must move on. And if you're a spiritual person, you understand there are ways, that the universe does not want you to be rooted in this, in this misery that you continue to carry. And the truth of the matter is that the only person that can take that misery away is you. You can have people help you, guide you to being able to let go of that, but you can't. You're the only one that can take take it off, take it away. You're the only one that can. It's your decision. How, everything about what you do in your life is all based on what you decide. But so I want, there's only so much you can really control in your life. And how you feel is one of those things that you can control. If you are not in control of how you feel, it is not because somebody has taken that control from you. It is because you have given it away. If you can't control how you act, it's not because somebody has taken that control from you. It's because you have chosen to not be responsible for how you act. In the end, you are responsible for those things. You're responsible for how you feel. You're responsible for how you act, and you're responsible for how you're going to move forward. So this is why gratitude is important, because gratitude roots us in the things that we can be grateful for and changes our perspective from that of victimology to one of being grateful for that which we do have. And it's important to be grateful for that which you do have, because this is where your positive life will begin. Now, you have to understand that this is where the laws of abundance begin. Being grateful for that which you have removes the negativity of that which you don't. And that removal of that negativity now opens you up for more positive things, more things to be grateful for. This is the basis of gratitude, in which I've been practicing for many months now. And what I want to kind of talk about is how that may not be enough. In regards to the laws of abundance, it's not enough. And here's why. So, as you know, for several weeks, if you've been following along all along, I've been going through several weeks of many challenges of trying to just show up every day, just keeping the doubts at bay, so on and so forth. And I've been practicing gratitude through that whole time. And I woke up one day and realized that gratitude was, I was really kind of, one of the things that I keep hearing about manifestation is that you have to picture yourself in the future. You have to picture yourself in that moment, and you have to embody that person from the future today, now. And what I was doing with gratitude was, I was doing a successful job of finding the things that I was grateful for, but you can easily just go through the motions. When you can't think of anything else, it's easy to say, well, I'm just glad that I woke up this morning. I could be dead, but I'm still alive. So that's something to be grateful for. And, and you can easily get locked into a routine of just bringing up the same exact things. And then you can begin to start looking at things from a place of lacking again, where I just don't have anything creative, or I don't have anything else that I haven't already thought of to be grateful for. And that's, I think that, it's incredibly easy to do that. And that's kind of what I was doing. I was kind of getting caught in this routine of trying to come up with things and not coming up with them, and thinking about, well, I should have, I need to come up with more, or I need to start making better progress so that I'm more things, I can be grateful for more things. And I was rooting myself in the past is really what I was doing. And that's negative. The past is gone. There's nothing more you can do about it. You can be grateful for all the good moments in the past, certainly, but that's not the point of the gratitude. The point of the gratitude is to root you in a place of positivity, and not in things long since past, but rather in the things happening in this present moment. And it's easy to begin to struggle to find those things to be grateful for if you are consistently thinking of those things in the past. So, what if we reframe this? And the idea here, reframing, is, well, so we want to kind of think about, we want to change our, well, let me start here. The gratitude was, that's a ritual that we were, performing every morning. Part of our morning rituals was, we get our coffee, we sit down, we listen to a pep talk of sorts, on how to become successful, and not affirmations, just things to be prepared for on the road to success, mindset challenges, etc. And in addition to, and then following that, we would practice our gratitude, and then finally journal about what our day's intentions were to be. And um, is the point of it is to create your intentions for the day, your mindset for the day, kind of set you up in a place of not being grumpy, not being, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, I can't believe I've got to worry about that. I don't want to have to freaking go here. I don't want to have to talk to that guy. I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to do that. Right. This is a typical average American day. I know it is, because I can't think of it, too many people that I've known through my 50 years of existence that don't wake up in the morning going, shit, today's the day I got to go do that. Or, oh man, tomorrow, or, oh man, freaking Thursday, or, Sunday, or whatever. I've got this thing coming up. I don't want to fucking do it. I don't want to worry about that. I'll just fucking, whatever. It is what it is. I'll just muddy through it. You've already set your future up for negativity when you do that. And this is, I think, primarily most people's lives in Western society, is we think to the future, and we tend to think of the things that we don't want in the future as opposed to the things we do. So there you are right there. Instead of setting your intentions by saying, well, I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for that, which is ultimately putting you in a mindset from the past, you change it and say, you know what, I'm excited that today I get to work on my school project. I'm excited that a week from now I get to have this BB out of my head. So I can get the MRI and then figure out what's wrong with my neck. I'm excited for these things. I'm excited for, so now you've created gratitude for the future. And this now sets up your mindset for the day. Now you can be grateful for things that are coming, as opposed to, oh, I can't believe I got to go do that. Or what I was doing with the gratitude ritual, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for these things, but I can't, there's not enough to be grateful for, or being rooted in the past. We've changed ourselves to being excited for the future, and then we open ourselves up for more great things to come. So, so my notes, I'm going through my notes, of course. So the principle one anchor is excitement is future gratitude, creating immediate energy for possibilities. And creating that immediate energy for possibilities only opens us to possibilities. And possibilities in and of itself, opportunity, right? Possibilities are opportunities. Opportunities are almost always good. Opportunity to get better at something, an opportunity for that promotion, an opportunity to start a business, an opportunity for a better life. Well, principle two is the excitement exchange. Stop sparring with ideas and fighting the concept of forcing things to work. It's a 15 to 20-minute ritual. Yeah, it's about right. 15 to 20 minutes every morning. Julie and I, we exchange three things that we can be excited for, future events. And you don't have to have a partner to do this with. You can just simply write three exciting things about your day on a piece of paper. Get it out there. Put it in the universe. And it has to be real. You can't just you can't just think of something and say, I'm excited about that. You need to be genuinely excited. So when you think of something that you're going to do or something that's going to happen, and it should be in the short term, because you want to live through that excitement as quickly as possible to maintain the excitement, right? So when you think of something that's coming up today that you're excited about. Maybe it's just going home at the end of your day. You know what? I'm excited that for the end of the day, I get to come home and relax and watch a little TV or read a book, or I don't know, whatever it is that or maybe you're excited for lunchtime because you get to have that freaking sandwich you've been thinking about. You just made that lunch and you're already excited for it. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I'm kind of mixing messages here, because really the excitement ritual is one of the first things you should do. I like to get these things out of the way within the first hour of being awake. And the reason for that is I want my intentions to be set before anything else can possibly adjust my mindset. So at any rate, you come up with these things. You come up with three things. You can start with, if you can't get three things, maybe it's two, maybe it's one, whatever. Don't worry about the lack of things to be excited about. If you have at least one, then you focus on that one with everything you got. If you can think of three, great, you're doing great. If you think of more, even better. Keep thinking of things to be excited about, because it shapes your emotional state and prepares you for small daily successes. Very important. So the old system focused on tasks, not psychology. They ignored the primary challenge. Focuses on, so in other words, it gets away from being rooted in the past. It gets away from trying to think of things that I have or emotional states that I've had, and instead focuses directly on a task, or or maybe receiving of something, whatever it is, and it creates something tangible behind the psychology. So the focus is pulled away from the psychology and instead put on something that's tangible. But the fact that, what I ended up doing is with this turn of events from from being grateful for things in the past to being excited about the things in the future, and giving my mindset something to be grateful for that is yet to come. Um, I was able to turn my point of view around and begin to explore a different way to approach things. And that was really big. So that changed my original, sparring partner, as it were, virtual sparring partner on business ideas. Turned that into something that genuinely, and I'm not, I mean, I telling you, the the back and forth now, typically people like to think of AI as well, there's a couple of different ways of looking at it. AI today is really trained to give you exactly what you want. You can shape that so that it doesn't, which is kind of what I'm getting at. The other side of it is, people tend to think of AI as um, having its own motives to things. It doesn't. It doesn't have any motive to anything. AI, that's a completely different, you know, AI is a misnomer. It's really not intelligent, right? It's just a new way. It's a new type of programming is basically the best way I would phrase it for the layman. But at any rate, um, my change in perspective was able to take this AI, turn it into an AI that was willing to go back and forth with me and tell me when I was, when I was being an escape artist, for instance, which is fantastic because, when, if you're running most of your business ideas or whatever ideas you're having and working with, if you're doing most of that on your own, you don't have anybody to kind of have a back and forth with. And having somebody to have the back and forth in business or anything else, if you were in a band or maybe, I don't know, maybe just planning next year's family function, you kind of want to talk or, get other people's take on things to kind of give you a different perspective. That's you know, collaboration really is a big way to move any great idea beyond. And it's something that we all kind of need, is we need to be able to collaborate. If you have nobody that you're collaborating with on a business, say for instance, then, having a virtual collaborator is not, and you might say, well, you're kind of, there's something inauthentic about that, about coming up with these. Just so you understand, all it's doing is it's amplifying what's already going on in my own head. It's amplifying my own thoughts. So, and then it's also making them coherent enough for me to be able to kind of look at it and not be confused by my own thoughts, and rather see, read between the lines, so to speak. So, um, so it's really, I use a various purpose, and this is what the future of business is, by the way. People are using AI for exactly this. I'm not the first to do this. I thought I was being unique on it, but it turns out a lot of people are doing this, and a lot of big promoters of AI are saying you should do this. You should do the back and forth with AI. It's going to tell you all the different steps that you didn't think of and all these other things. And that's great. That's great. But you have to find a way to make it work so that it works for you, right? So that it works. So it's, well, not just for you, but with you. It needs to be that amplifier, and it needs to understand, and it needs to be able to give you all that information you don't already have. So, I mean, it's, I'll tell you, I wouldn't have been able, I wouldn't be thinking about doing any of this shit 20 years ago. I think 20 years ago, the closest I would come to creating a business would be maybe I'm going to go into business for myself as a contractor, as an electrical contractor. But I didn't want to do that 20 years ago. I really didn't want to have all the worries that go with it all. But all those worries that I would have had then are going away now. And it's never been easier for somebody that doesn't know anything about business to get into business. I mean, everything's at your fingertips. And now you can create these virtual assistants that help you to formulate your thoughts and your plans and everything else in perfectly actionable items. So, so that change in focus allowed me to create this gem that now we spar on things, and it keeps me from making those mistakes or from making the mistake of allowing it to frustrate me. So all that being said, prior to this change of perspective, this, moving into, excitement and all these things, I was really getting frustrated every day. I was having a harder time each morning being grateful for things. And a lot of it was, I was just frustrated. I was trying to create automation tools for emails, etc. Trying you know, I'm trying to build, these, the back end of these services for the business and of course I've got 10 ideas that I'm trying to work on all at the same time, which is not really an efficient way to of utilizing your time. Um, and I really kind of reached a very low. This is well, as of this recording, this is about a week and a half ago. I just kind of got to a point where I was like, that's it. I it can't, if it's gonna be this hard, I can't, you know, if I'm going to be consistently frustrated every day and feel like the needle is just not moving one bit, and this goes on for, such long periods of time, I mean, I have to feel like I'm making some progress in some way. And I just kind of got to a point, I'll just give up, and accept my fate. Live out the rest of my days working a second shift, electrical job, and, and maybe retire with a small pension. Um, that's where I got, that's where I was. And, the fact of the matter is that I was so locked into forcing things to just work, even though the process itself was the problem. I kept going through the process as though it wasn't the problem, that there was something inherently just wrong in general, and then it became there's something inherently wrong with me. And and I just, when I changed my perspective on for the day, and I set up, I set my intentions for the day, and I was actually excited to do things. I didn't sit down and do them the same way. Um, I realized that, I needed to start asking, well, if you're not going to work the way I want you to work, then how do I get you to work the way I want you to work? How do we meet somewhere in the middle here? Because, we're butting heads, and, and so that, that was really what I needed. What I needed to realize was that, and these notes are so, and it started with this. that day started with this. I'm at such an emotional low. I'm really, I'm just ready to give up. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, or 5:30 at this point. Coffee. We got a coffee in front of us. We just listened to a pep talk. I've already 3 days in a row. I've gotten frustrated to the point of saying I quit. Now, mind you, I didn't. I didn't get up the next morning and try again. But here I am, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do anything. And we just listened to a pep talk, and I looked to Julie, and and I love her. I'll tell you what, sometimes it's just she's exactly what I need at the right time. And it doesn't take much. It was just looking at her. And so now she's been watching me struggle for the last few weeks, and it's been tough because I go with these emotional highs where I think I got to figure it out, and that's where the episode recordings come in. And then the emotional lows a couple days later when I'm back to not producing and really not sure of myself. And so here we are. She's been putting up with all of this, and I'm looking at her, and I can see she is struggling to come up with something to be grateful for, because I've been feeding her all this negativity. She's been trying desperately to get me out of it. And I mean, don't get me wrong. When I say I'm feeding her negativity, I mean, I'm not trying. I see her actually as it's easier for me to try to boost her up than it is to boost myself up. So I would try to constantly boost her up, but then I'm sitting there going, what the fuck? I can't do. And so, while I'm trying to boost her up, I'm really tearing her down with my own inadequacies, right? So she's struggling like hell to come up with something to be grateful for. and, and I can see it's all over her face. And I just seen, and this is where the universe provides, right? If you're open to the messages coming, it doesn't matter what form they come from. And you can go ahead and be as scientific as you want about things, but I don't care, because I happen to look at Instagram now. I had uninstalled Instagram for, I think, for 2-3 weeks prior to this. I didn't have Instagram on my phone. I didn't have any social media, and I had just reinstalled it, and I just moments before this, I had seen a video that kind of gave me, I don't remember what it was. I honestly, I wish I had jotted down what the video was or saved it or something, because it was exactly the message I needed to hear at that moment. And that would be the kind of shit that you really want to document in your journey from, one thing to the next. So I, I'm just looking at her struggle, and I says, how about we change our perspective? Instead of being grateful, what are you excited for today? What's one event or one thing that you're going to receive or whatever today that you've got to be excited for? In her entire posture, her facial expression, every last bit of her being shifted in that moment. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how profound that moment was. There's no way to describe it. And as soon as that moment, and I had no idea when I asked the question, I had no idea. It's funny that when really profound moments happen, you don't know going into the moment that it's going to be profound, and then it just is, and it's like a splash of cold water on your face after you've been working really, really hard at something, right? It's just that, I can't explain it. Every ounce of her being had completely shifted from that of somebody who was struggling, of somebody who was tired, not just because of how early it was in the morning and lack of sleep from the night before, but tired emotionally. All these struggles over all these years and everything, now all that suddenly disappeared. And she went, and she smiled. I, I can't mimic her face, but she completely shifted. And she goes, one thing I'm excited for? And you could see the wheels were already in motion. She was already figuring it out. And I apologize to her later if I'm embarrassing her with this story, but the absolute change from frustration, from depression to elation, and I knew I was onto something. And I hadn't even done it yet. And and so she thought of some things, and then I thought of some things that we had to be excited for that day. And again, this would have been a great moment if we had a camera or something recording at the moment, because it'd be nice to be able to relive the moment exactly. The only thing, though, that stands out in my mind is me going, you know what? How about this? Why don't you tell me one thing you've got to be excited for? And just seeing that change, that complete, and I've never seen somebody's entire persona change physically, and the tone of her voice, expression on her face, her posture, everything just shifted so dramatically and in such a positive way. And so when I went back to, later on with this new intention set for the day, and I went back to the computer, to my AI, and I said, you know what, instead of asking, and this is the new rule, okay, and this is what we should be asking. I mean, it's not a new rule. This is my new rule, but this should be everybody's rule. Instead of asking what is wrong with this thing, ask what can I learn from this. When you are struggling with something and you're first thing in the morning thinking about having to deal with that later on today, turn your entire being from being, I got to work on that, to being, you know what? I'm excited to figure out what I can learn from that stupid fucking thing. And mean it and be excited, because you know what? Here's an opportunity to learn how to look at it differently. Here's an opportunity to learn something new. Here's an opportunity to maybe scrap the fucking thing altogether and do something better, something that you're more meant to do. What can I learn? What can I learn from this? So the goal is no longer make the tool work, but to learn how to make the tool work with me. With me. Learn how to work with me. And I'm going to talk a bunch about that in the lesson plan on my school page. So, in how you can frame those things with AI, so that you're not running through the same frustrations that I do. But I mean, it's just amazing. So since then, I've had some very long and very beneficial conversations with that AI. Since then, I've also noticed some many things. And actually, so it's funny. I was talking with my buddy over the weekend, and and he's been listening to every episode, and he gave me shit because I didn't release an episode last week, and or prior to last week's episode, that is. He was giving me shit about that. And just like the week before, or the episode before, he gave me shit on because it was 3 days late. And I appreciate that because, somebody's keeping me honest. I honestly, I don't know how many people are listening to this every day. The metrics don't seem to add up, don't seem to make any sense, at least not right now. I don't, maybe there's some easier way to figure all that stuff out, but in truth, it doesn't matter. I'm not doing it for the metrics. Maybe someday there'll be, the metrics will be worth noting, but right now this is more about just the documenting of my journey, right? So at any rate, I'm with my buddy over the weekend, and he's giving me shit because he's like, you're screwing up my whole routine for podcasts. I'm going to have to pull you out of the rotation if you can't stay. I'm like, I get it. I get it. And I says, we just had a rough week. And I says, I was thinking about calling, now that was originally the episode 11. Episode 11 was a week late. So I was going to call episode 11 the lost episode. and just play it off like, I didn't just miss a week. It's just lost. and I thought that was pretty clever. At any rate, so I think about it now, and it occurs to me now that what really happened was, I the day in which I was going to record episode 11 initially, on if it were on time, I didn't know what to talk about. And I was in that emotional low. I was in that real trap of frustration and just beating my head against the wall and ready to give up on everything, really. And then just as what would have actually been a week since the last one I released, is when I came, when we rephrased or we reshaped our morning ritual towards excitement as opposed to gratitude. I became so excited with the things that I was doing that I kind of just, I don't know, I just couldn't find the time to sit down and record. Not when I still had energy to do so. So this, it really kind of, and that's why it ended up happening. That's why we didn't record that week, and why the episode ended up being a week late. And that's what this whole topic is about, which was supposed to be episode 11, which was supposed to be the one you listened to last week. And then, of course, my notes kind of didn't, they're not framed the way I like. I think I can get used to them. I just got to learn to kind of go through them with a little bit less rigidity, I think. But what I came to realize, with all that excitement, and then the following days afterwards, is that it's easy to kind of get caught up and lose yourself in the task, or lose the point of the task, and just do the task for the sake of doing it. We all get kind of caught up in going through the motions after we've been doing something, for a while. And we could easily get caught up in just going through the motions with the excitement ritual as well. It's important to remember it's not just coming up with something to be excited about. It's actually being excited about that thing. So ultimately, the lesson here, the lesson to take away from all of this was, first of all, if you're beating your head against the wall, change your perspective. Sometimes, and I remember a funny scene from some show somewhere, and the guy is standing on his head, and somebody walks in a room and he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I needed to look at it from a different perspective." Sometimes it's all that takes is, just stand on your head for a few minutes and maybe think, go for a walk, uh, talk about it with somebody, and then listen to what they have to say about it. Whatever, get a different perspective. If you're beating your head against the wall, get a different perspective. At the end of the day, it's not about how you don't, the goal is not to make the tool work, but to learn how to make the tool work with me. And the promise is to put down the mental load of judgment, right? You can put down the mental load of judgment when you choose to see the frustration as a pivot and not as a failure. In other words, that frustration means change direction, look at it from a different perspective. So tomorrow morning, trade your "I'm grateful for" into "I'm excited about," and set your intentions to be truly grateful for the things that are yet to happen. And then it'll be easier for you to manifest yourself in a position of where you want to be and begin to act as if you're that person today. That is manifestation at its root. And let that, and then let that excitement fuel your first dreaded task. So what I'd like you to do is, yes, change from "I'm grateful for" to "I'm excited about." And then I want you to go to wherever you're listening to this, and I want you to tell me how that changed your energy about that one thing that you didn't want to do. And do all that. Comment all that. Like, comment, share. Please, 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 please keep returning to the show. And I thank you all of you that listen every week. I thank you so much for joining me and for continuing along with me on my journey. I wish I would hear more from you guys, but it's okay. We've all got lives to live. I'm just glad that you get to be a witness to mine. And hopefully you can learn from all the things, all the mistakes that I've made and all the things that I've learned. And it applies, to something great in your life. And with all that being said, I hope you continue to join me every week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.